My childhood had no room for fanciful dreams. From an early age I knew that my family was not like the ones I saw on TV, where everyone was loved equally, where fairness was a given. In my house, love was not distributed evenly. There were privileges reserved for only one person, and that person was never me. My name is Emily. I am the second child in a family of 4 siblings. My older brother Ethan is 2 years older than me, while my twin younger sisters, Sophia and Lily, were born when I was just entering my teenage years. We lived in a small town where everyone knew each other, but that only made the difference between Ethan and me even more obvious in the eyes of others. From a young age I learned to be responsible. While other kids played outside, I was in the kitchen helping my mom prepare dinner. While my classmates joined after-school activities, I was changing Sophia and Lily's diapers, or rocking them to sleep through their endless crying. "You're the big sister, you have to help your mom," was a phrase I heard so often that I couldn't even remember the last time I had a free afternoon. My parents, Mark and Linda, were hardworking people. My father was a machine repairman at a mechanical factory, working long and exhausting shifts. My mother was a part-time cashier at a small grocery store, spending the rest of her time taking care of the family. We weren't wealthy, but we weren't destitute either. However, what felt most unfair to me wasn't the lack of money. It was the blatant favoritism my parents showed toward Ethan. "He's the eldest son," my father would say with pride, his rough hand ruffling Ethan's hair. "One day he'll carry on the family name." Those words echoed in my mind, like a constant reminder that I was only the second child. Not the eldest son, nor the youngest daughter who would be doted on. Ethan was treated as someone special. He was prioritized in everything, from getting the best meals to receiving the most expensive birthday gifts, to opportunities I would never be given. When Ethan turned 16, my parents saved up to buy him a used car for school. 2 years later, when I turned 16, all I got was a birthday card and some words of encouragement: "Study hard so you can buy your own car someday." I didn't hate Ethan, he wasn't arrogant or intentionally dismissive of me. But that only made it worse. Because he never had to try to be loved more than I was, it came to him naturally. As if it was an unspoken rule in my parents' eyes. Still, I never complained. I knew that if I spoke up, I would only hear the same responses. "We love all of our children equally," or "Don't compare yourself to your brother." So I stayed silent. I did my part. I took care of Sophia and Lily, completed my schoolwork without needing to be reminded, and cleaned the house without expecting a thank you. I told myself that one day, things would change. But I was wrong. There are some things, no matter how hard I try, that I will never be able to change. I always knew that if I wanted a different life, I had to create it myself. No one in my family could help me escape the endless cycle of invisible responsibilities I had carried since childhood, so I placed all my hopes in my education. I chose accounting and finance, not out of passion but because I knew it was the most reliable path to securing a stable job in the future. When I announced my decision, my mother simply nodded, while my father didn't seem to care. Ethan smirked. "Finance? Are you sure you're even good enough for that?" I didn't respond. I knew I had to prove myself through actions, not words. When I left home to attend college in a city a few hours away, no one saw me off. There were no tears, no heartfelt goodbyes, and no wishes of good luck. Just a quick hug from my mother and a brief reminder: "Take care of yourself, Emily." My parents had saved a small amount to support my college education, but it wasn't nearly enough to cover everything. I quickly realized that if I wanted to survive, I had to fend for myself. From my freshman year, I took a part-time job at a small coffee shop near campus. During the day, I attended classes. At night, I stood behind the counter making drinks, serving customers, and cleaning up until late. Some days I returned to my dorm with aching legs and a pounding headache from exhaustion, but I never allowed myself to stop. Every time I looked at my grades, seeing those good numbers, I reminded myself that I was on the right path. I couldn't afford to fail. I refused to become another version of my parents, struggling through life, relying on luck, always bowing down to circumstances. I wanted more than that. Despite my busy schedule, I made an effort to stay in touch with my mother and my younger sisters. I called home every Sunday night, listening to my mom talk about the week, about the family's financial struggles, and about how proud my father was of Ethan working at a local company. Every time my mom mentioned Ethan, I could hear the favoritism in her voice. I didn't feel jealous anymore, but I also no longer felt hurt. I just felt empty. Sophia and Lily were different. They were always excited to tell me about school, their friends, and the movies they loved. They said they missed me and wanted me to come home. I would smile and tell them, "I miss you too," but deep down, I knew I wouldn't be coming back anytime soon. I had grown used to this independent life. And my father? He almost never spoke to me directly. Whenever I called home, he would give me a brief hello or ask a polite question before walking away. I wasn't sad about it anymore. I had gotten used to it. 4 years passed like a breeze. I graduated with outstanding results, not because I was smarter than anyone else, but because I had worked twice, even 3 times as hard as others. No one from my family attended my graduation. I wasn't surprised. My mother said my father was busy, and Sophia and Lily had no one to bring them. Ethan? I didn't even expect him to come. But none of that mattered. I had made it here on my own, and I would keep moving forward the same way. Right after receiving my diploma, I got a job offer at a major financial firm in the city. The salary wasn't high, but the opportunity for growth was there. When I called my mother to share the news, she was silent for a moment before asking, "So, you're not coming back home?" I had been waiting for that question, and I already knew my answer. "No, Mom, there are more opportunities for me here." On the other end of the line, my mother sighed. I wasn't sure if it was disappointment or acceptance, but I didn't need her congratulations. I just needed her to understand that I had chosen my own path. I didn't belong to that small town anymore. I didn't want to return to a place where I had always been a shadow behind my brother. I had stepped into a bigger world, and I had no intention of stopping. What I didn't know was that no matter how much I tried to escape my past, it would still find its way back to me, and one day I would have to face it. I never thought I would return home so soon. After 4 years away, I had grown accustomed to the fast-paced life of the city, the towering buildings, the tense meetings, and the endless demands of work. But then, an unexpected offer from my company changed everything. They wanted to open a new branch in my hometown and needed someone capable to manage it. I had spent the past few years proving myself through successful projects and strong leadership. When my superiors asked me to take on this role, I didn't need much time to consider. It was a big step in my career, an opportunity I couldn't turn down. My mother was thrilled when she heard the news. "You can stay with me and your sister," she said excitedly over the phone. "It'll be just like old times." I had planned to rent my own place, but after much persuasion from my mother, I finally agreed to stay with them for a while. When I arrived, the old house seemed smaller than I remembered. The porch, the front door, it was all the same, yet something felt different. As soon as I stepped inside, Sophia and Lily ran up to hug me, chattering excitedly about everything that had happened in my absence. My mother was busy in the kitchen, while my father simply nodded at me before turning back to the news on TV. I wasn't surprised. Ethan wasn't there. My mother said he had moved out to live with his fiancée. The first time I heard about Madison was through my mother. Madison came from a wealthy family. Her father owned a large company and Ethan worked there. "She's a bit special," my mother said hesitantly. I could already guess what that meant. My first encounter with Madison happened not long after I returned home. That evening, Ethan brought her over for dinner. When the door opened, I saw my brother dressed sharply in a suit, looking more successful than before. But my attention was quickly drawn to the woman standing beside him. Madison was tall and slender, with long glossy hair, draped in a designer coat that I knew cost more than my entire month's salary. "Oh, Emily!" Madison looked me up and down, a fleeting smile playing on her lips, one that carried a hint of condescension. "I've heard about you from Ethan." I didn't like the way she looked at me, as if I were something lesser, but I kept my composure. "Nice to meet you, Madison." That dinner was a challenge. Madison spent the evening flaunting her lavish lifestyle, going on about luxurious vacations and high society events she attended. But what bothered me the most wasn't her boasting. It was the way she treated my family, or rather, the thinly veiled disdain she masked behind seemingly innocent remarks. When Ethan told me about this house, I imagined it to be bigger, she commented as she placed her wineglass down. Sophia and Lily sat quietly, avoiding eye contact. I glanced at my mother, who forced a polite smile, trying to smooth over the tension. My father didn't react at all, as if he didn't even register the disrespect in Madison's words. I turned to Ethan, expecting him to say something, but he simply smiled at Madison, as if everything was perfectly fine. No, it was not fine, not at all. After dinner, while washing dishes with Sophia and Lily, I asked in a hushed voice, "What do you two think of Madison?" The two exchanged glances before Sophia spoke softly. "She doesn't like us." Lily nodded. "She criticizes everything. Last time she said my clothes looked cheap." A slow-burning anger began to rise in my chest, but what infuriated me even more was how my family seemed to bow down to Madison, as if they were afraid of upsetting her. I knew this was worse than what I had just witnessed, and I knew that, whether I wanted to or not, I couldn't ignore what was coming. Ever since Madison arrived, the atmosphere in the house had completely changed. She didn't just see herself as the center of attention. She controlled everything according to her own wishes. My mother went out of her way to please Madison in every possible way, while my father viewed her as a symbol of success. Simply because she came from a wealthy family, things only got worse when Madison started planning her wedding with Ethan. She orchestrated an over-the-top extravagant affair complete with strict demands on the venue, menu, dresses, and most importantly, the bridesmaids. Despite not wanting to, Sophia, Lily, and I were all forced to be part of Madison's bridal party. "We're going to have a special dance at the reception," Madison announced one evening, her gaze sweeping over all of us. "Every bridesmaid needs to rehearse to make sure it's perfect." I frowned. "A dance?" Madison let out a laugh, but there was something mocking in her tone. "Oh, Emily, don't look at me like that. This isn't just a simple waltz. I've hired a professional choreographer. We're putting on a special performance for the guests." I glanced at Sophia and Lily. They looked uncomfortable but didn't dare speak up. I turned back to Madison. "I can't dance." Madison blinked, feigning surprise. "Can't?" "Emily, no one can't dance. You just don't want to." I took a deep breath. "I had a back injury in college. Intense movements can cause me pain." The room fell silent. I saw a flicker of irritation cross Madison's face, but she quickly regained her composure. "Then you can make up for it in another way," she said, crossing her arms. "Do you have any idea how expensive this wedding is? If you can't participate, I think it's only fair that you compensate in some other form." I narrowed my eyes. "What do you mean?" She flashed a fake smile. $10,000. Just a small contribution to cover the cost I have to bear because you can't contribute in other ways." I was speechless. "You're joking, right?" Madison smirked. "I'm not joking. I just want things to be fair. If you can't support the wedding visually, then at least you should contribute financially." I turned to Ethan, hoping he would say something, but he just stood there, silent, his eyes avoiding mine as if he didn't want to get involved in the argument. A surge of anger flared up inside me. "No way." I stood up abruptly. "I'm not your puppet, Madison, and I don't owe you a single cent." Madison raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Really? Then I think you should reconsider. Because if you don't help, your family might find themselves in a difficult situation." I looked at her, then at my parents. They sat still, saying nothing to oppose Madison. That was the moment I realized I was completely alone in this house. I shook my head, feeling a deep sense of disappointment. If you're all choosing to let her control everything, then fine, but I won't be a part of it. I walked away, my footsteps echoing through the house. As I reached the door, I heard my mother calling after me. "Emily, you can't do this. You know how important Ethan is." I turned back, meeting her worried gaze. "Mom, is Ethan so important that you're willing to let Madison disrespect this entire family?" She didn't answer, she just lowered her head, as if she didn't want to face the truth. My father spoke up, his voice cold. "If you can't support this family, then maybe you shouldn't be here." I clenched my fists. "Fine." I stepped out, not looking back. I knew this was the end of something. The next day I packed my things and moved into the apartment my company had arranged for me. For the first time in years, I lived alone, free from the weight of my family's expectations. But deep down I knew this wasn't over. Madison wasn't done with me. And my family still didn't realize what they had lost. 3 months had passed since I left that house. I had grown used to living on my own. Work kept me busy, leaving little time to think about my family. The calls became less frequent, from both sides. I no longer reached out to my mother, and she didn't try to contact me either. Sophia and Lily occasionally sent short messages, but even those felt hesitant, as if they were afraid of being caught. Then, one rainy night, a loud, urgent knocking at my door startled me. When I opened it, I froze. Sophia and Lily stood there, drenched, their faces pale from the cold and exhaustion. "Emily, can you help us?" Sophia asked, her voice trembling, thick with tears. I pulled them inside, quickly grabbing towels to dry them off. I looked at my sisters. They looked completely different from the last time I saw them. Their clothes were wrinkled, their eyes sunken with dark circles from lack of sleep, and it was clear they had been crying a lot. "What happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Lily choked on a sob. "We can't stay there anymore." And then little by little they told me everything. Ever since I left, Madison had taken complete control of the house. She didn't see Sophia and Lily as sisters-in-law but as unpaid servants. They were forced to do everything. Clean the floors, do the laundry, cook. All just to serve Madison. "She even made us hand wash her clothes," Sophia said, her eyes red and swollen. "She said the washing machine could ruin her designer outfits." Lily clenched her fists. "That's not even the worst part. If we made a single mistake, she would call Mom and tell her we were being disrespectful. And Mom always took Madison's side." My chest tightened. "What about Ethan?" Sophia let out a bitter laugh. When I had never heard from her before, he did nothing. There was a time she screamed at us right in front of him and he just sat there, watching, like we deserved it. Anger surged inside me. I had always known what kind of person Madison was, but I never imagined my parents would allow this to happen, without stepping in. I looked at my sisters, still shivering from the cold and from the hurt they had endured. I knew I couldn't let them go back there. "You're staying here with me," I said firmly. "No one has the right to treat you like that." Sophia and Lily broke down into tears again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from relief. The first few days were an adjustment for all of us. My apartment wasn't big, but it was enough for us to have our own space. I helped Sophia and Lily make plans for their future. Sophia wanted to find a part-time job to save money, and Lily wanted to continue studying to have better opportunities. I used my connections at work to get Sophia a job at a small bookstore where she could work in a healthy environment. Lily enrolled in a short-term graphic design course, something she had always loved but never had the chance to pursue. At first, my mother kept calling, insisting that they return home. "Family is the most important thing, Emily," she said. "You can't let your hatred for Madison tear this family apart." I gripped my phone tightly, trying to stay calm. "What family, Mom? The family where you let Madison mistreat them? The family where Ethan treats his own sisters like servants? The family where Dad only cares about Ethan's reputation?" Silence on the other end. My mother sighed. "Is this really your decision?" I looked at Sophia and Lily. Both nodded without hesitation. "Yes," I said. "This is our decision." After that, my mother never called again. As time passed, the three of us began building a new life. There were no parents by our side, no recognition from the people who were supposed to love us the most. But we didn't need that anymore. We had each other, and that was enough. With time, our lives slowly stabilized. Sophia worked hard at the bookstore, saving every penny for her future. Lily excelled in her graphic design course, her eyes lighting up every time she talked about a new project. I continued pushing forward in my career, determined to provide the best for my sisters. The calls from my mother stopped completely. No one from my family reached out. Not my father, not Ethan. I should have felt heartbroken, but strangely I felt relieved. I no longer had to try to please people who had never truly prioritized me. I no longer had to fight for a sliver of fairness in that family. One day, while organizing the closet, Lily found an old photograph. It was a family picture from long ago, when we were still kids. In the photo, Ethan stood beside my father, both of them smiling proudly. My mother held Sophia and Lily in her arms while I stood slightly behind them, my smile hesitant and forced. Lily looked at me, uncertainty in her expression. "Do you miss them?" I didn't answer right away. I stared at the picture for a long time, feeling the old memories rush back. Some happy moments, but mostly pain. I think I do, I said slowly, but not in a way that makes me want to go back. Sophia sighed. I used to think that one day, Mom and Dad would realize they were wrong, that they would change. I shook my head. No, Sophia, they won't change. They made their choice. That was the hardest truth for me to accept. Not everyone realizes their mistakes. Not everyone apologizes or acknowledges the harm they've caused. My parents chose Ethan. They chose Madison. They chose wealth and status. They never truly saw Sophia, Lily, or me as priorities. But that didn't matter anymore. I looked at my sisters. We had been through so much pain, yet we were still standing, stronger than ever. We had learned to live without seeking validation from our so-called family, because real family isn't about blood, it's about love, respect, and care. Do you regret it? Lily asked softly. I smiled, feeling a peace I had never known before. No, I said, I've never felt this free. We might not have a traditional family anymore, but we still had each other, and that was enough. No matter what our past had been, we would continue moving forward. Strong, independent, and no longer bound by things that weren't worth it. Emily's story reflects a reality many people face. Sometimes, family isn't a place of fairness or unconditional love. Some people never change. And blood ties don't always mean genuine connection. The most important thing is recognizing who truly values and respects us. Like Emily, sometimes we have to let go of the past, build our own future, and find happiness with those who truly deserve it, rather than chasing validation from people who never appreciated us. What do you think about Emily's story? If you were in her situation, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more stories about life, family, and valuable lessons.